Well, we didn't want to win the Challenge Cup anyway, right? A tough day on Sunday for the Bears as their Challenge Cup bid was snuffed out by Hunslet in stormy conditions. We've got all the reaction and analysis for you. This is your official Coventry Bears podcast. This is Bear Necessities. Welcome to Bear Necessities, your official Coventry Bears podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube and at coventrybears.com. I'm one of your hosts, Dave Musson, and joining me as always is former Bears fullback Craig Cathcart. Craig, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Obviously disappointed with the result at the weekend, but, onwards and upwards and all that.
Yeah, definitely. So the Bears played their first competitive game of 2020 on Sunday, a Challenge Cup third round tie away to Hunslet. And we expected it to be tough, and the stormy conditions made it even tougher. It was one of the few matches of rugby league that actually got played at the weekend. Bears were competitive in the first half, with Hayden Freeman's try drawing them level at 4-4 midway through. But Hunslet scored again just before the break to make it 8-4, and then sadly for the Bears, Hunslet ran away with it in the second half, ending up 36-4 winners and quashing any hopes of a Bears trip to Wembley this year. We'll bring you our analysis in a bit, but first, let's hear what Bears Director of Rugby Alan Robinson had to say about it. Craig caught up with him on Monday night.
Thanks for joining me, Alan. So it ended up probably a disappointing result in the end, but you more than matched Hunslet in the first half on Sunday.
Yeah, it was a logistical nightmare really getting up there on the day. The weather wasn't kind, sort of on the travel side of it, but we got there, and Hunslet, credit to them, we got the game on. First half, I thought we matched them in some areas, and it was sort of toe-to-toe for a while. We lost a couple of players. We lost a prop. We lost a half through injury, which didn't help our situation. And I think really going into the second half, we needed to step it up again, and the amount of defending we'd done. And I think the strength of Hunslet's pack took a toll on us, and that's something we've struggled with in the second half, and they got on top of us there and put a lot of pressure on us, and the weather didn't help, and the conditions deteriorated quite a bit. But we do have positives to take from it as well, and I think going through that sort of adversity together as a group at this time of the season and being in a really tough game and a real tough arm wrestle for a lot of the game, we'll stand us in good stead, and we can focus on the league now.
Yeah, and there's been quite a few players come in as well. I'm guessing they'll take a little while to gel and get to know each other's game and everything else. So there's got to be some positives having matched Hunslet for the first 40 and the points in the second half as well.
Yeah, I think if we'd have had a full complement on the bench, we'd have been able to rotate a bit better, and that would have helped. But we've got there's guys that have come in there with experience, and we're trying to build that spine around those guys. And I think really if everyone just does their job really well, and we can match these teams in the middle, and we can get to the right areas of the field, there's no reason why we can't be a threat, to teams. But everyone's got to do their job, and we need everyone to step up to that and step up to the plate and put their hand up when they need to, and we can get some positives out of games, and we can build on that for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and was there any performances that stood out for you on Sunday?
I thought a couple of the forwards did it tough. Brad Clav, played big minutes, and Brad Clavering played big minutes and did a decent job. Nathan Hill, as always, is a threat there at the back. I think in the middle, some of the newer guys, Will Budd, I thought, had a really good defensive effort, did a lot of minutes extra. Darius Hamilton as well did more minutes than he probably should have had. So, when we can start to get the guys we have playing how they should and playing the right minutes that they should to have the right impact on the game, hopefully, we can start to make a bit of progress.
So this week, Alan, you would have been preparing for the first league game of the season against Rochdale, but that, unfortunately, due to the Rochdale game being postponed, that's been cancelled. So by the looks of it, you've now not got a league game till 1st of March. I mean, will that be extra preparation time, or were you the guys raring to go and get ready to get started?
I think we really wanted to get started. Off the back of Sunday, you want to put things right and you want to get stuck in again and get into the season. We really are raring to go now. It's not ideal. Spoke to Rochdale today and they really wanted to play at the weekend as well as we did, but I think the RFL made the call quite early on all the clubs, and it's not great, but we have to deal with that. It's part of the way things are now, the way things happen. We'll now prepare really, we'll change how we'll prepare over the next few weeks a little bit. We'll prepare for the Newcastle game. And then obviously we're away at Barrow the week after that. So it's, none of these games are easy. And unfortunately, we just got a little bit longer to wait. But we've just got to manage it.
Yeah, and what was it like? I know you've had a couple of friendly games, a couple of pre-season games. What was it like having your first competitive game, being involved in the rugby side of it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's interesting having that input, I suppose, a bit more on the field, a bit closer to the players. Just get the feel for how everyone reacts and getting to know the characters within the group as well, and sort of how people prepare and how people cope with the game day and all those sorts of things. It's enjoyable having that sort of input. It's a little bit different to what I've been used to, but as a former player and I suppose a lot of coaching in the past, it's sort of reignited that fire. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Really raring to go. Hopefully, my main thing really this year is I want to get the best out of the group. I want to get the best out of the players and the staff. We've got a good group of young staff as well, and they're all really enthusiastic. So it's managing that as well as the players, and hopefully we can just keep moving forward and making the most of the environment that we've got and the facilities that we've got.
And I'm guessing, just one final thing, I'm guessing you won't want to travel up for a match in storm force winds like that again.
No, it was pretty hair-raising on Sunday. I think there was a tree down around Nottinghamshire, and then the coach was in the mid lane most of the way, sort of like being on a ferry at times. But it was, it's all part of it. It's all part of the journey and the adventure. And I think, it's why we're involved in the game, and we just got to get on with it. And I think, credit to the boys, they did work hard yesterday in really adverse conditions. And again, we've just got to take the positives from that and keep moving forward.
Thanks as always to Alan Robinson for joining us and offering his thoughts on the game. So we're going to get into our rapid fire analysis now, which you may remember is this new thing we're trying this season. We pick out a few topics of discussion from each match and we spend no more than 3 minutes on each topic. And yes, I do time it. An alarm does go off if we reach it. So this week's topics for discussion are: number 1, the fact that it was a tale of two halves and what can the Bears learn from that. Number 2, the fact that this is still a new Bears team. We need a bit of patience for them to gel. Number 3 is this, yet again, another false start to the season and just how frustrating that is. And number 4, what should the Bears be doing between now and the 1st of March, which is how long they have to wait for their next match. So let's kick off with that tale of two halves. What will the Bears have learned from Sunday? And Craig, you go first. I'm going to start the timer now.
I think one thing to learn is that they can compete. They showed that for 40 minutes. I think there's a learning curve for the team. There's a few new players in there, so it's going to take time to gel. I think they got to play against the conditions or manage the conditions better. I think that because with the conditions deteriorating in the second half, they struggled a bit. The other thing to say as well is that, coming up against a big pack like the Hunslet pack, they've possibly got to manage the game better. Hunslet sort of rolled them over a bit in the second half and pushed them back in whenever they were taking it up to the line. So there's a bit of that. I think there was issues. There was extenuating circumstances. The Bears had lost a prop early on in the game, and then Brad Sheridan went off injured, so they were down to two interchanges for the vast majority of the game, and Hunslet took advantage of that. But yeah, there's a lot to learn. I think as this team gels, they'll get better and better. They'll manage games better, and that period of time where they're competitive will get longer as well. They fully matched Hunslet for the first 40, and they just need to try and extend that for more minutes against other teams, and they'll get the results that they want.
Yeah, I think for me, there's kind of two big learning points out of this game, and it's something we've seen across the time we've done this podcast, really. I think one is that when the Bears score, to try and do whatever they can to keep that momentum going and keep their peckers up, if for want of a better phrase, try and make the most of having a bit of buzz around them, because it's always, there's always a buzz around a team right after they score, and sometimes we're not as clinical as perhaps we might want to be when we've definitely got the momentum going with us. And I guess second is, and it's difficult what with the conditions and, as you say, being down to fewer interchanges and all of that, but when an opposition scores back to back, not letting heads drop and trying to, get things going and resetting and going back to what the coaches have said and just keeping your shape, keeping your discipline, keeping it tight, and trying to stem the tide of points. And it was definitely difficult conditions on Sunday, but those are the kind of games that you're always going to learn more from than winning more often than not. And as we're going to talk about in a second, it is a new team. There's still lots of gelling to be done. And it was the first game of the season, so, there's plenty of time left yet. And we have got 6 seconds left, so I will cancel the timer because it's a hideous noise. So, second then, it's an important point we need to discuss, and we've mentioned it already, the fact that this team is still new. So I'll start this one, and I'll start the timer now and kick us off. So that starting lineup on Sunday was a very strong starting lineup, but if you go back and look at it, it was packed full of new faces. And as I just mentioned, it was the first proper game of the season. We've got new players, young players who haven't tested themselves very frequently at this level, new combinations that need to be worked out, and it's going to take a couple of games to get going. And I think we've already talked, you throw in the weather, you throw in losing Peter Ryan fairly early on, and then losing Brad Sheridan after that late hit. It was all stacked up against the Bears come the end. And actually, when you take that into context, keeping it at 36 points when everything was against them so much in the second half, they can take some heart from that as well. I mean, let's be clear, we are ridiculously positive on this podcast. No one likes watching a team lose, but, we do have to stay realistic and stay positive. It is a very long season. There's a lot of rugby left to play in far better conditions that are going to suit the Bears game all round. Sunday was not, even though Hayden scored a try, Sunday was not a game for our rapid fire outside backs, and our pack is still quite young, and still getting to grips with working together. I mean, a cup run would have been nice, but it just wasn't to be. And we've got to give this team a bit of chance to get to know each other a bit better and work those combinations out on field in a competitive environment, haven't we? So over to you, Craig. Any thoughts for?
Yeah, I think so. It's not just the players as well. There's new coaching staff. It's a learning curve for them. They've got to get used to the players on the field and seeing what they're made of, and working out which players can play at different stages of the game, how many minutes each player can play. There's a lot still to learn, and I'm pretty certain that the group will improve as the season goes on. I think there's some real good players in there, and once those players start to gel together, I think we've definitely got a good side on our hands here. I think, I'm very, very positive. I think they showed glimpses on Sunday of what they're capable of. And I'm certain as well, as the season goes on, they'll be able to match teams more for longer up front. I think it's the other thing to say as well is that I think the coaching staff will have identified maybe areas they need to strengthen a little bit. We have dual reg agreements with other clubs as well, so they might wish to bring in some players, maybe possibly in the pack to strengthen the pack. I think with the smaller number of subs and the less, there's only 12 interchanges now. I think you probably need 2 props at least on your bench for every game. So the Bears might want to strengthen there. But
Yep, no, that's all good. Stop. I need to work out how to stop this timer because otherwise it's going to get embarrassing. All good points there. So point 3 then is the fact that we have another false start to the season. So I'll start this one too so I can explain what I mean. So I'll start the timer. So as most of you listening probably know, we were meant to be playing Rochdale this coming weekend, but because Rochdale's cup game got postponed, that's now been rearranged for this weekend because the next round of the Challenge Cup is the weekend after, which means that the Bears now have to wait until the 1st of March to start their season and to get Sunday out of their system. And of course, last year, we talked about it quite a lot. Our season was pretty slow to get going. We had a couple of games here and then a bit of a gap with nothing and then all of the other things that were going on. And now we've just got to wait even longer, having got all excited about the start of the season and been trailing the start of the season for so long. I don't know, to me, it just feels like something at the game level needs to be done. And I just can't help but feeling that starting the season this early in the year, particularly trying to blend the cup and the league this early in the year when the cup has priority, so it automatically postpones league games before you've even started the league. It just feels like a bad idea, and it's just so frustrating because we were all getting worked up for the start of the season and now we've got to wait until literally next month. I mean, Craig, it is frustrating, isn't it? It really is
ridiculous. The Rochdale, they won't have a league game now until 8th of March. The Bears are 1st of March. I don't know why the Challenge Cup game couldn't have been played midweek or shifted back to the same weekend as the 4th round games, and then potentially Rochdale could have played their game the week after, the 4th round game the week after. I think it's I don't know, I just don't understand the scheduling for League One. Why it starts so early in February when there's likely to be postponements. And why there's so many gaps in the schedule. I mean, how can you get any momentum going? The last thing the Bears players will want after losing is to have a 3-week break where they're thinking about the game and they want to get it out of their system. You just can't get any momentum going. And, as I said, I think Rochdale said on social media, their last pre-season game was in January. And then they're waiting until March. I mean, your pre-season is set up so that you're prepared and ready to go at the start of the season. What you don't want is a pre-season where you then have, potentially, a 4 to 6 week break before you have a proper competitive league game. I think it's, something clearly needs to be done. I think I'd like to see if they're going to stick with this silly number of teams, or 11 teams in League One, without, either new teams need to come in to make up the numbers, or they need to rebalance it again and rebalance the number of teams in the.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. It's, either make it an even number, either by, ideally not losing one, adding 1 or 3. But yeah, and then just playing the season in a block. I know we're going over our 3 minutes here, but it's a really annoying point, and we should just finish off.
Decision to reduce the number of teams in League One, and then Hemel dropped out, and they haven't done anything to rebalance that. And left with League One, it's difficult for teams to raise revenue when they've only got 10 home games, and when the home games are so spread out as well. A lot of teams in League One are suffering as a result of the decisions that have been made. And then you add in the playing the Challenge Cup earlier as well. It's just it is ridiculous, and I can, I know that the Bears are not the only club that are totally frustrated with this situation, and I hope that the RFL will listen to clubs' concerns and sort it out for next season.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we snuck over our 3 minutes slightly there, but I think our listeners will allow it. So, last but not least, what do the Bears do now? So instead of playing this Sunday, we've got another 2 weeks to wait. So, Craig, I'm going to start the timer, but what do you think the Bears should be doing?
Well, I mean, it's difficult for the Bears. I mean, it would be good potentially to have a practice game of some kind so that the Bears, can have a bit of contact to ensure that they remain fit and ready to go for the first league game. It's going to be a tough first league game now against Newcastle, followed by probably an even tougher game away at Barrow. So it's going to be a tricky start. I think it's difficult being a bit of an outpost club in the Midlands. You can't just say to your local rival a few miles down the road, would you like to set up a reserves game or something to play? But I think the players can. I would imagine that there'll be some training sessions on the weekends. They'll probably run through routines, game routines, and everything else. And I think there'll probably be a bit of a change of focus. I think obviously, having played the Challenge Cup game, they would have been focused on the next league game, which would be Rochdale, and preparing for that. They'll have to change the preparation now and think about Newcastle and how they play, and start thinking about that and aiming for a really good result against them. But it is very tricky.
Yeah, it's almost like you say. It's almost like starting pre-season again, isn't it? You've got to reset. You've got to maybe rethink in terms of fitness, not wanting to because obviously they would have been building to peak last Sunday and then build up again for this coming Sunday. Now you've got to factor in that gap, and like you say, thinking about a totally different opposition. I mean, I think for me, I just hope that the players can. It's difficult when you can't just follow it up a week after, but I hope the players can sort of jettison last Sunday from their system and not worry about it, not stress about it too much. It was the first game of the season. It is a new team. There's a long, long way to go yet. And let's be realistic. We had a bit of a good cup run a couple of years ago, but we weren't really going to get to Wembley this year. It would have been nice to have a couple more matches. But now I think it's almost just forget that happened. Try to learn the lessons from it, but forget the rest of it and just start focusing now on the start of the season being in March and easing in terms of fitness, building up the contact as we get closer to that first game, and getting really fired up for the visit of Thunder, and reminding everyone involved in the group that the Bears absolutely hammered Thunder last year in Coventry, and there's no reason why they can't do it again, and make that first hit out of the season one that is worth waiting for, because we're going to have to wait, so they may as well make it worth our while. And that's 3 seconds left, so good. Okay, I think that's it. I mean, with no match to talk about this weekend, that's pretty much us done for another show. So, I guess we'll probably take a week off next week as well, just like the Bears are having to do from League One, unless we come up with something special out of thin air. But who knows? Just subscribe, and that way you'll know either way whether we're back next week or not. And of course, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, tell a friend, all of that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, we will be back at some point before the Thunder game to preview that, and fingers crossed we'll be welcoming the start of the new season on the 1st of March. Let's hope no more storms come and no more delays happen in the Cup and all of that kind of stuff. But until then, take care, and Craig, thanks as always for joining.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.